Hey friends, thanks for hanging out right now. I am super tired. First of all, I apologize. It's been a lot of conversation leading up to the course closing tomorrow. But in this live, I wanted to talk about something that's a huge deal, first of all, which is that Bitcoin broke its all-time highs today. It's gone above 110K. We can actually take a look at that right now. Yeah, per this, it's trading at just over 110K at this moment. And in addition to that, relating to that, I was interested in speaking more about the spirituality and the astrology surrounding this happening, and specifically how that relates to seeds, to what's going on with our social good project seeds, which uses blockchain technology as well, which also uses cryptocurrency tools. I'm most interested in the spiritual, and everything else is sort of interacting with that. And that's what I'd like to talk about. I'm hoping that this will connect with other people who are interested in that as well. I should share, though, that in case you're not aware, the reason I've been going live so much to talk about stuff like this, things relating to cryptocurrency more explicitly, is because tomorrow is the deadline for our 2025 course. I teach this live once a year. It's called How to Build Abundance in Cryptocurrency. And it supports seeds. It supports our social good project seeds so that we can help people in need. It's also effectively free when you sign up and pay in full up front because you get Seeds cryptocurrency when you sign up. So it's meant to be a generous deal. It's intended to reach good giving people who understand that the legacy economic system is not working, but maybe haven't known where to turn. And it sustains seeds, as I touched on, so that until we reach a point at which the seeds ecosystem is able to support itself without the need for something like a course to sustain it. I've been teaching this, and I think it's, I think I'm confident that the information that I'm able to provide, as somebody that used to be a pro Wall Street trader who started buying Bitcoin in 2013 at $90 a coin, who then saw ways to use the technology to design a new ecosystem like Seeds, which is a kinder economic ecosystem, which allows us to build abundance through giving. I have a unique perspective to offer that I really want to use to help people, good giving people who maybe haven't been feeling a lot of hope because of what's been going on, especially like in the last, whatever, 6 months or so. So the deadline to join that is tomorrow. As I said, I teach it live once per year. So this is the chance that we're offering to join in 2025 if you'd like to be a part of the live version. But yeah, what I wanted to talk about most is the astrology. I'm very much an astrological like hobbyist. You may have heard me say before. There are good astrologers that you can find on YouTube, some of whom I listen to. What was interesting to me though, in the last like week or so that I was hearing more about and trying to learn as much about as I could, was what's coming up with the Saturn and Neptune uh, conjunction at 0 degrees of Aries. So maybe we'll put this up here. It's always weird like having my face like that. Yeah, so this is going to be, I believe it begins officially May 25th. So 4 days from the time I'm recording this, when Saturn enters Aries. Neptune is already in Aries. And as I understand, it's a huge deal because it hasn't happened for thousands of years. Saturn and Neptune being conjunct specifically at 0 degrees of Aries. And that's 0 degrees of Aries specifically is a big deal because that's the beginning of the zodiac. So what I saw in this was interesting to me because it connected to something that I was saying in a recent live that I did on YouTube. I was talking about this idea of seeds representing the idealistic, this brighter economic system that we're moving toward in terms of where society is heading, where humanity is heading, in which you can build wealth through giving. Seeds practically works now and has been working now. You could go on the Seeds site and make a gift to help somebody in need. The link is in the description. So is the link to the course, by the way. You can make a gift to help somebody and you'll receive Seeds cryptocurrency in thanks. And that gives you the opportunity. First of all, it makes your gift net neutral. It doesn't cost you anything because you're getting an equal or greater value in seeds in thanks. But then if seeds go up in value, and because Bitcoin just broke all-time highs, looks like we're we're starting to move into this hype cycle that cryptocurrency tends to go through roughly every 4 years or so. There is this chance that you could see your wealth increase simply because you were kind. I think a mistake I've made in the past is the big mistake that I'm learning that I made now is like in 2021-ish, the last cryptocurrency market cycle when it was at its peak. We were talking to too many people who only wanted to get rich in cryptocurrency. I want to share, and I have the experience and the knowledge to share how to build wealth in cryptocurrency, how to make a lot of money in cryptocurrency, because it's still there to be made. But the people that I hope to connect with are the ones who, I'm not condemning that. It's cool if you're going to make a lot of money, if you're doing it in ethical ways, that's great. But the people we need to connect with now and moving forward are the people that recognize seeds as a way to transcend the old system and who want to be a part of that. And if that's you, this is like, you're the person that I'm hoping to be reaching, that I've struggled to find for many years now. Talking about this for a long time. But it's a mistake that I made, and I don't want to be too hard on myself about it either, because I did what I thought was necessary at the time to help seeds continue to keep moving. And 4 years ago, it looked like, I guess, just talking to anyone who was interested in making money in cryptocurrency was enough, and you could make money doing that. But that the person who is only interested in making a lot of money, if that's all they care about, they're not going to care about building a better world and transcending the old system, which is what Seeds sets out to do. So, yeah, relating to the astrology, what I found interesting is that with Saturn and Neptune coming conjunct at 0 degrees of Aries, a way that I just described Seeds a few days ago was sort of merging this idealistic future that I'm wholly convinced we're moving into, in which a project like Seeds, in which you can build wealth through giving, will really start to spread widely. But there's also a practical component. Seeds has been working for years, as I said, and I teach this course and offer this experience that I have as a former like Wall Street trader who started buying Bitcoin when it was $90 a coin, because I can share this practical application of knowledge that works within the current structure, that allows you to understand like how to make money on centralized cryptocurrency exchanges, whatever, that allows you to look at a graph like this, although this graph isn't that detailed, and helps you figure out like where you might want to buy using that graphical information, using something called technical analysis, if that's unfamiliar. And so I recognize that I was, without knowing anything about this astrological aspect, I was coming at things, I was approaching things with this kind of marriage of the idealistic and the practical. And then just a few days ago, when I was listening to this astrologer, who I think is more knowledgeable than most of those I've been able to find on YouTube, Pam Gregory, although she doesn't believe that the moon landing happened and didn't provide like proof or whatever, or like support for why she thinks that. So that was slightly concerning, but I believe the moon landing happened. But when she was talking about this conjunction, the Neptune Saturn conjunction at 0 degrees of Aries, she was talking about it as this, she used very similar language to what I was using when I was describing Seeds and my approach to Seeds, this marriage of the practical and the idealistic coming together. Because it's a 0 degrees of Aries, it's like a totally new thing. It's opening up whole new horizons. And that's super exciting to me. And I took some notes that I thought I'd share in this chat. Let's see here. I'm chilling on my bed because I was tired of like sitting in the same place where I've done most of these before. Okay. So yeah, Saturn goes into Aries May 25th, so that's 4 days away from the time I'm recording this. Yeah, so I wrote down whole new era. And we have to go back thousands of years to find an example of the same conjunction at 0 degrees of Aries in history. More spiritual leadership is apparently going to happen. And as that relates to seeds, I thought that was interesting too, because I mean, Vipassana meditation has always, not always, it's quote unquote only been a formal part of the seeds design for like 6 years. That's a long time though, really. But that's less than half the amount of time that seeds has existed. So Vipassana itself, because Vipassana meditation has so positively impacted my life, it's been something that I was very interested in, like bringing into seeds, because it's made me so much healthier and happier compared to what I was not so long ago, that I knew, and I've seen it help so many other people at the same time. I understood that if we could bring that into seeds in some way, and then if seeds goes on to scale in the way that I've always been convinced that it will, then there will be other organizations that would also want to like mimic that model, so it could help Vipassana spread. And when seeds was like, when we formally incorporated Vipassana into our model, it was, like I said, it was like 6 years ago. And the way we did it was, we decided that in the way that the Goenka Vipassana courses are run, at those courses you can sit 2 10 days, give or take. It's like not a hard and fast rule. But after you've sat two, they ask that you volunteer to serve a course, to serve other meditators before you sit another course. And the courses are donation based, so they never cost you anything. And so in that way, it becomes a sustainable model, because people are coming back to volunteer to help the courses to run. And so initially with seeds, we didn't have a boundary on that. And I think this is a function of my giving too much. I had a pattern of giving more than I should in inappropriate situations, which I think a lot of women are conditioned to do. Um, so for a while, it was just like you could receive as many gifts as you wanted through seeds, and there was no kind of structure around that to help with like sustainability. I mean, people had to choose to give to your gifts. So if somebody was aware that you'd gotten 10 gifts, nobody's gotten 10 gifts through seeds. But if it looked as though you were taking advantage of the system, there were some moderating elements in there. People would probably be less likely to continue giving if it looked that way. But what we realized is that it would be even more beneficial to create something that really borrowed from what the Goenka course design did, in that you can now receive 2 gifts from seeds. And then before receiving a third gift, we ask that you either give forward a third of what you've received in terms of that monetary value. And if you can't afford to do that, you can raise money for somebody else instead. Or you can sit a free Vipassana course. So that's a part of our model anyway. So yeah, just relating to this idea of like more spiritual leadership coming in with Neptune going into, Neptune's already in Aries, but and Saturn joining it at 0 degrees of Aries. I just think it's interesting that I'm finding for myself, and like with these lives, to some degree, because I can't reach very many people so far. These aren't reaching very many. I'm aware that what I'm recording now seems to be for posterity, or for people in the future who might embrace it and be able to receive it. And also for me, like I think it's interesting for any of us to document the thoughts and ideas that we're moving through and the practical application of what we're doing and how it's working and so forth. So I'm kind of thinking that these messages are more so for the future, since the algorithm isn't helping me out so much in reaching things and getting things through it to connect with like-minded people right now. But what has been kind of working more so lately, interestingly, has been when I've been doing Vipassana meditation on like lives. And it's really weird, and I mean, algorithms I think are very problematic in a lot of ways. But yeah, it's been kind of interesting to see that after whatever 15 and a half months of consistently making long form content on YouTube, what started to get more views was me literally sitting there and meditating, doing nothing, not talking. And one of those would get like almost twice as many views as any long form piece of content I've made so far. So I don't know if that, I mean, astrology and energies affect everything, but it's kind of interesting in that it seems like it is sort of nudging me to like I felt like it helped me to understand that communicating about seeds and connecting with people who resonate with this idea of transcending a legacy economic system and scaling a new kind of economic system that is grounded in giving, that is about helping people build wealth through giving, which, I mean, therefore a system like that isn't going to create like more people like Donald Trump or whatever. It's going to reward the generous, the people that are trying to do good things. And it's it's been curious, and I've been surprised to discover that maybe what's being suggested to me is that communicating more about Vipassana is a better way to share that message and to reach people who are into it, you know? I've been aware for years now that certainly talking to crypto people is not the way to go, as that sector has gotten like worse and worse, like the energies have gotten grosser and grosser. Which has happened every cycle. We see bad actors do bad things, and that's always ultimately what drives the prices down in any given cycle. But yeah, it's gotten, I think it's been the worst it's ever been since I've been involved. I mean, the whole time though, because in the very early days, like I didn't get involved until 2013. In Bitcoin's earliest days, it was enthusiasts and technologists and cryptographers who wanted to be involved, who were curious about what Bitcoin was doing and who were interested in it as an experiment. And it's only been in like the last handful of years that so many scammers, like on a wider and wider scale, because there's more mainstream knowledge, because it's easier than ever to mint your own cryptocurrency. That's why we're seeing so much gross stuff. And yeah, so I'm kind of wondering, I mean, I'm going to keep practicing Vipassana meditation for the rest of this life. I just will. It just helped me so much. And it hadn't occurred to me until recently that speaking more about seeds within the context of how it's connected to Vipassana, how it relates to Vipassana, is the way to go. And that makes me really happy. That's if that's the way to make it connect, that's the ideal. That's the best possible approach. So it's great. Yeah, to bring it back to what I was saying about the astrology, then that just made it interesting to see that this idea of more spiritual leadership is coming in with these energies. And it feels a little like I'm being nudged into not a spiritual leader role. Like I'm so far away from teaching. I mean, I feel as though it would be something I would do at some point, that I would become a Vipassana teacher at some point when I'm ready. But there's a lot that I need to heal and release before I'd be ready to do that. So I don't know. I just made a note of it because I found it interesting. Another thing I found interesting was this idea that Neptune and Saturn and their conjunction at 0 degrees of Aries, like that's the world stage. 0 degrees of any of the cardinal signs is what's called the world stage. So there's a much more public, uh, you're on the public stage if you have those conjunctions natally. And it's strongest if you have any planetary whatever, if you have any aspect at 0 degrees of the cardinal signs, then as I understand, those are on the world stage, so you may be pushed into the public eye in some way relating to whatever those aspects are. But if it's 0 degrees of Aries, because Aries is the first sign in the zodiac, then it's like way stronger. And so apparently this conjunction, this Neptune Saturn conjunction at 0 degrees of Aries, brings that idea of the idealistic and the practical working together, which, as I said earlier, feels very related to what Seeds is doing and has been doing. It brings that onto the public stage more so. So we'll see what happens with that. But I found that super interesting. And like I touched on earlier, what really brought this home, what made me even consider like doing a live like this, is that descriptions that I saw astrologers using to try and help us understand what the Neptune Saturn conjunction at 0 degrees of Aries is were so eerily similar to language that I had very recently been using to describe seeds, and that I had used over the years at various points to describe what seeds is. Yeah, and then beyond that too, it's like pioneering visions, 0 degrees of Aries, making real the dream was something that Pam Gregory said. Manifesting creative visions. Dissolution, this is huge. Dissolution of traditional structures because Neptune dissolves and Saturn is about traditional structures. So, what is more exciting than hearing that? Y'all, like, I was just looking at the New York Times a little bit ago and seeing that Trump's gonna build a golden dome around the globe or something to stop like space attacks. Like, it couldn't get more comical and ridiculous and also just horrible because that's going to cost so much money. Like, he gutted USAID. Do people call it USAID? They probably do. I don't know if I've heard its name said. I probably have. They gut this program that actually helps people so that Trump can build a golden fucking space curtain, space whatever shield. It's just like when you think it can't get any more ridiculous or worse, it does. But I am aware that trying to fight against those lower energies, that doesn't work either. It's almost like it solidifies them, right? Whenever we're resisting it, it's like a solid thing hitting up against a solid thing. And a lot of us know intellectually at least that like what you resist persists, that idea. And so something I've talked about a lot over the years is the idea of seeds as something that is meant to transcend the existing economic system because it has better elements of design, I think, in many ways, so that the traditional economic system is then rendered obsolete. There's a Buckminster Fuller quote that I reference a lot relating to that idea. And so this, what the astrology is saying regarding like dissolution of traditional structures, that sounds great because when they're solid, then it can just end up being these ongoing battles to try and defeat them. And I would love it if they just went away, you know? So I'm very hopeful that we'll see more of that, particularly in the economic system as well. We're past the point at which, I mean, we shouldn't be working 9 to 5 jobs that we don't like. We shouldn't be forced to do that anymore at this point in history. There's so much money in the world. Nobody should have to do that. We should be supported so that it's no longer necessary to do that kind of thing. And that's something, again, that Seeds is working to do for more and more of us. And yeah, I can't wait to see these systems dissolve. These dumb lower systems that keep us stuck, they need to go away. And apparently the astrology is indicating that could be coming in. I also learned that this is apparently sort of like a dress rehearsal because both Saturn and Neptune will retrograde back into Pisces later on this year. I wrote down some dates. So it looks like on the 22nd of October of 2025, Neptune retrogrades back into Pisces. And then on the 27th of January, it's back in Aries for good for a long period of time. I'm not sure. I think till like maybe 2039, but I'm not certain. And then on the 14th of February, Valentine's Day, Saturn will be in Aries for good after retrograding back into Pisces. So I'm hoping that that'll mean that come February of next year, things will be like, we'll see what's happening over the course of the next, what would that be, 5-ish months or so until October. I didn't write down when Saturn retrogrades back into Pisces, so I'm not exactly sure when that'll be, but sometime soonish, there's going to be some retrograde. So yeah, we're getting this dress rehearsal where we get to kind of see what these new energies are going to be like, and then they'll go back into Pisces for a brief period of time, and then coming into early 2026, we'll be solidly into this new 0 degrees in Aries, Saturn, Neptune conjunction energy. So yeah, hopefully that'll mean that we'll get some reprieve from the heavy stuff that's been going on. And then heading into 2026, hopefully we'll get to live there, like all the time. I wrote down something else that was exciting to hear. when learning more about this astrology, which is this is the biggest opportunity over lifetimes to shift into the new, because this conjunction at 0 degrees of Aries specifically is so rare. And there were some dates, I guess in 1968, Saturn was also in Aries at that time. And there was a trine between, I think, Uranus and Pluto, which we also have now. So just this idea of like kind of revisiting some of that 60s revolutionary energy that never played out to the degree that it had this certain promise. I remember reading Stephen King actually said something about this, and I'm pretty sure he was born in 46. So that would make him like the oldest of the boomers. He said something about how his generation, the boomer generation, never fulfilled their promise, never fully fulfilled their promise. And then I know that I remember making a TikTok about this years ago because I thought this was interesting. And then I know that Joan Didion, the author, had said that a lot of people believe the 60s ended in August of 1969 with the Manson murders because they were hippies. Like the hippies did this horrible thing, and it did this thing to crush the good spirit, the positivity and the lightness in those energies. And then people headed into the 70s, and the 70s were a lot darker. When I think of the 70s aesthetic, it's so much darker and uglier, you know? And it's kind of a similar thing, I think, coming into like the early 80s. And then the 80s in the US where I live was Reaganism, capitalism, like yuppies. It just became about this capitalistic horror. And I've been thinking about Abby Hoffman lately. I think he killed himself. Sorry, I think you're not supposed to say that on social media. I think he unalived himself in 88, 89, April 12th of 89. And yeah, I've just been thinking about him in the context of like, I guess I'll put it back on here, of like, imagine what that was like. He did all of this revolutionary stuff. He wrote the book, Steal This Book. Like it was, he was so about transcending capitalistic systems. He lived through almost all of the 80s, and then he just couldn't take it anymore, and he had to leave. And yeah, so just that idea of like the hippie movement ending with the Manson murders and then coming into the ugliness of the 70s and the 80s. Not that there weren't other whatever positive things also happening in those times. Um yeah, I just found that interesting, especially, sorry, my dog's right here, especially with astrology indicating that right now we're echoing a lot of what was going on in the 60s. And I've worried myself, like the concept of selling out, for example, which was at least a Gen X thing. Like I think about like Tony Hawk, and this idea of selling out was really condemned. Like if you were indicating that you were quote unquote selling out in any way, people hated you for it. And at this point in time, I feel like that concept has kind of left the vernacular. Like I don't feel like people talk about that as an idea anymore. Social media has made so many people want to sell shit. Like that's the main reason. That's a big part of the reason I left TikTok. I was so excited about TikTok in the beginning when it was like creators connecting and stuff, and these platforms all change, and YouTube I think is the one that has like maintained the most integrity, that I trust the most, even though YouTube itself definitely has a lot of flaws, as does Google. But yeah, like I wanted to leave TikTok because it was a bunch of people trying to sell like stuff that TikTok wants you to sell and whatever. I'm aware of the irony in that but is it? I don't know. I was just going to say I'm aware of the irony in that I'm selling this course now, but that's the thing about it. Like, because there's so much of that bad energy around capitalism and the idea of selling in that sense, where it's like cheapened and it's so widespread, it's made talking about something like the course, which is free, by the way, if you pay in full up front because it includes seeds. It's meant to be a generous offer, and it sustains a social good project. It's a lot harder to talk about something like that without it immediately being categorized as like yet another thing, yet another course that somebody's trying to sell, whatever. even though I started teaching it before selling courses was like a thing that a lot of people were doing. You know what I mean? So it's just weird how it folds in on itself and how like the negative energy, it's these wounded masculine energies that are so everywhere. Um, they're really pernicious. And I mean, sometimes they're really overt, but they're also insidious in other ways too. And I feel like it's made things harder for seeds. And so I'm interested to see what this astrological signature and these changing energies are going to mean for seeds in the next few years. We'll see. Yeah. So those are some thoughts that, I mean, that went in directions I wasn't expecting it to go, but it's more fun to have conversations like this. It's like so much more, I'm so much more interested in thinking about those types of concepts and ideas. I'll let y'all go. I don't want this to go too long. But yeah, as I said, the deadline for the course is tomorrow. Again, Bitcoin is at highs today. Let's refresh this to see if it went up anymore. Okay, it's pulling back a little bit off of its highs. I've said this in other lives, but Bitcoin is unique in that now that we're seeing it breaking through these highs and we don't have this tariff pressure that we had that was dampening things a few months ago, excuse me, or even it was like 6 weeks ago, I guess, or 7 weeks ago, that tariffs were at their worst. Bitcoin in the past, we'll see if it plays out in the same way this time, but I would my estimate is that it's likely to do a similar thing. Bitcoin would just keep breaking its all-time highs again and again and again until some bad actor does something terrible, until some dude steals a bunch of money from his users or something. But things are different this cycle. There's more institutional support for Bitcoin. It's less volatile. It's not moving with other cryptocurrencies to the same degree that it used to, or vice versa, because there's more institutional support for Bitcoin. So it's a different thing. So this is significant. It's not like I'm not making this video today to say that I think, you know, Bitcoin is just broke its all-time highs today, which it did, but that's going to be it. Like now it's going to head back down. What I've seen over the course of years in the cryptocurrency space and actively trading cryptocurrency is that we tend to see these hype cycles pick up speed, gain momentum, and then we see all-time highs broken again and again and again. So we'll see if this is just the beginning of this portion of that cycle. And I want good giving people to benefit from these tools. I want y'all to know how to use cryptocurrency. And so I can share that with you through the course. I can bring in my experience as a former pro stock trader who worked on Wall Street and in Chicago, who figured out ways to make profits. In 2008, that's when I started trading. So the markets were crashing and I still was able to figure out a way to make money. I can share that knowledge, and then I can also share, I can do my best to impart what led me to recognize that, what led me to realize that I should start buying Bitcoin in 2013 when I saw it, when I first became acquainted with it. Um, I can give that to you, and I'd love to share that with more good giving people. The course again supports seeds so that 100% of the value of gifts that come through the seeds ecosystem can go to people in need. Again, it's effectively free because you get Seeds cryptocurrency with it when you pay in full up front. There's also a monthly payment option if that's better for your needs. It's nominally more expensive than paying in full up front. Or if you need to, you can always redeem a seed to ask for help to get the funds to join as well. So that can function kind of like as a scholarship or something, but that's what we do anyway. Like seeds exist to facilitate, you know, to allow people to ask for help when they need it and to receive that as a gift. That's what Seeds is here to do. But Seeds can only work, it can only continue to grow and to scale if we're connecting with more good giving people who want to, who want alternatives, who want something else that is about helping us to transcend the old nonprofit for profit binary baked into the old system, which only exists because the old system leaves no space for giving. The old system is all about self-interest, and we've outgrown that. It doesn't make sense. So many people are not exclusively acting out of self-interest at all times. So many of us want to do things to give to help others, particularly women. Women make more donations, statistically speaking, and women also have less money, they have less wealth. And that's not a coincidence because the old system is not designed to reward giving. It's not designed to help giving people build more wealth, but seeds is. And seeds is about restoring a positive, healthy, equal balance of feminine energy, yin energy into our systems. And so that's by design. That's essential to its design. So if any of that resonates, I hope you'll consider the course. Yeah, deadline is just before midnight tomorrow, May 22nd, Thursday, May 22nd at midnight Pacific time. If you're not quite sure yet, but you still want to be notified before the doors close, you can click on the link in the description and just like add your email address so that you get notified about it. And if you're ready to join, I'd love to have you. It'd be great to have you in the course. It's fun too. Like I miss getting to trade with like my friends. Like when I was a professional trader, you would trade with the people. You would start in like a class with a group of people. I mean, a group of dudes. I was always the only woman or one of the only women. There'd be like two women at one firm I worked. And you would chat with your friends about your trades and like tip each other off if you saw something that looked interesting. You could commiserate if a trade was going against you and you were nervous or freaking out. And so the course tries to offer that experience to you as well because it is really fun. It can almost kind of feel like an individual sport that you're like playing with a team a little bit. It's fun to get to do, and we have a private Discord channel just for those who are in the course. So like that's a resource that's available to you so that you can have that experience too that I miss a lot from the days when I was a pro trader. So yeah, I think that's all I'll share right now. Thank you so much for your time and attention. And I hope to catch you in the course. In any case, I'll see you next time. I'll be live on here again soon, either talking about this tomorrow before doors close, and I'll also be meditating as well if you ever want to join. Okay, I'll catch you later. Bye.